Old Man Gamer here today. I'm going to show you how to make shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is an old traditional dish that's been passed down in my family for a couple of generations. A lot of people know what a shepherd's pie is, but I'm going to make it a little bit different today. As you can see, I got breadcrumbs, I've got turkey gravy, got peas, onions, butter or margarine, turkey of course, milk, and instant mashed potatoes. Now I know a lot of people don't like instant mashed potatoes, but I'm going to show you a trick on how to make it the right consistency to make it nice and fluffy for your shepherd's pie. First and foremost, we got to get the pan hot enough. We use 1 tablespoon of butter. We allow that to melt down. Going to sizzle in there. You want to get it hot enough to melt the butter, but then once after the butter has been melted, you turn it down. So we're going to turn it down right now, okay? We don't want the flame to be too hot, but we want it to keep it a consistent warm inside the pan. And I'll get back to you in a second. All right, we added the onions in. We're sauteing the onions a little bit before we put it in. See, a lot of people tend to, when they make shepherd's pie, is to cook everything all at once, and then you wind up putting it into a pan and so on and so forth. I'll show you that later. But this way you can actually get everything almost completely done, and you only have to wait a few minutes while it's in the oven after you get everything together. So I'm going to show you what to add to the onions to give it a little kick. These are the seasonings I'm going to be using today. Meat tenderizer, garlic and pepper seasoning, or you can use individual pepper and garlic depending. Adobo, even though this has a lot of the seasoning that we're going to be using, but we'd like to kick up the spice a little bit. Old Bay, yes, that's mainly for our turkey. Basil, that's another thing for our turkey. But these are the main ingredients that I'll be using today. As you can see, I don't have any salt. I try not to use too much salt because it's going to be, with the butter and everything else, is going to be have enough salt in it. I just use it just for an added kick. So we got the salt right there. Once you've done that, you add a little bit of adobo and a little bit of garlic and pepper into the onion. Make sure the flame is on a medium to low. And you're sauteing the onions. That's all you're doing, sauteing the onions. Okay? Once they get a nice, juicy golden brown, set that to the side. Then we're going to work on the turkey. Okay, as you can see, there's the turkey. Looking all turkey-ish and everything. So, what we're going to do, we're going to add some breadcrumbs to give it a little fill. Now, I wouldn't suggest too much breadcrumbs. The only reason being is because the more the breadcrumbs are in there, the more harder taste it gives to the turkey. Just enough to give it a little fill. We added a little bit of meat tenderizer. That's enough. Add in some adobo. Now, a lot of people don't like adobo. That's fine. You can experiment with whatever you want to put into your own recipe. But this is what gives it a kick for me and my family. Add in a little basil. Okay. And just a little bit of Old Bay. Now, Old Bay is usually used for any seafood types of meat and everything, but it has that little oomph that you want to add onto your seasoning, or add onto the meat that you want to do. And we'll be right back. Alright, make sure that your oven is preheated to 400 degrees. Reason being is because you want it hot enough to when you put your whole entire thing in the oven, it won't take that long to crust over. So, now, as you can see, that's my little hot plate on the stove. Some people don't have it. You can use a pan, you can use whatever else that you can do that will actually cook the turkey. So what we're going to do, I reach over here, I'm going to grab the turkey, and we're going to plop it right on there. Woo! That's a lot of turkey. That is a lot of turkey. Now the flame, I just started up just to get the hot plate hot enough. We don't want it sizzling just when we're adding it. We want it to gradually heat up and start cooking the turkey. Now there's other meats that you can use, hamburger meat, lamb, anything that your heart desires. This is what my family likes to eat. So make sure, break it up. All right. Okay. And we'll be back after I brown it up. Now that the turkey's starting to brown, what we did now is we got some water. Did 4 to 5 cups of water. Added 2 teaspoons of butter into the water and allowed it to boil. When it gets to boiling, that's when we start cooking with gas. Basically, that means that's when we're going to start putting in the mashed potatoes and getting that ready. And all this stuff is going to be ready. Oop, forgot one more thing. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, we're almost ready to add the ingredients. I did also pre-prepare the peas. You don't have to do much to seasoning. Some people like to boil their vegetables. I like to keep it at a little bit of water in it. Let it boil up. Put the peas in. Put a little bit of butter, a little bit of garlic in there. And that actually keeps them a lot more greener than what you may have them. So we're going to add the peas. Oh boy. Take your spatula, just spread that out a little bit. Make sure it's evenly round like that. And you can do this whatever way you want to. I usually add a little bit of gravy on top of the peas. Alrighty. Ooh, that's starting to look good. Spread that with your spatula. Don't worry, it's going to come out looking good. It looks like a hot mess now. But woo-wee when it's done. Alright. Set that to the side. Take our onions that we've had over here. And... oh, wait a minute. Let me do it this way because, Dave doesn't have 3 hands. He only has 2. So, we add the onions in. Make sure you spread them out all over the place. Some people don't like onions. Like I said, this is an experiment. You can experiment with whatever food that you make. Just make it to your heart's content. Oh, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, that looks gracious. Now, this is the one thing I forgot to tell y'all. Now, I add cheese. Now, doesn't matter how much cheese you put in it. You can put in a lot. You put in a little bit. But just make sure it's evenly spread around. Alright? Oh boy. That's going to be good, girl. Ooh. Somebody need to marry me. Oh wait, I'm married already. No, that's not funny. Just make sure you spread all the cheese around. You don't, like I said, depending on how you are, you can put a little bit in, you can put a lot in. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to put all of it in. We're not going to do all that. We're going to save the cheese for another time when we want to cook something completely different. All right. A little bit there, a little bit there. Okay. Take some of the stuff right here. Gravy. Now, I don't put water in the gravy. The reason being I don't put water in the gravy, the more water that goes in, the more it washes off the taste. I like to keep it as thick as possible so you'll be able to taste everything. Now, just spread that out. Don't worry about if you make a mess. It's all right. Now that that's all over, I'm going to wrap this up, and then I'm going to get to, well, our water's almost ready, so we're going to be putting the mashed potatoes in. I'll show you what I do for the mashed potatoes, even though they're instant. Give it a little kick, and then we'll be right back. Now, of course, we add in, the milk, the butter, a little bit of salt, very little salt, very little. Mind you, it has to be a little bit of salt, not too much. But what I like to do is, remember what I told you about the cheese? Oh, throw a little cheese into the mashed potatoes. That actually is the little kick. Gives it consistency, makes it thicker, makes it gooier, and gives it its nice little, ooh, that looks so good. Gives it its nice little crust on top when you put it in the oven. Okay, I'll have the finished product before we put it in the oven, and then afterwards I'll show you what happens after we pull it out of the oven. All right. Okay, now we're ready to put this in the oven. What I did was, a little bit off camera, I just put enough to cover up the stuff that we have in the pan. Now, the pan doesn't matter what size you use, depending on how many people you're feeding in the family. If you do it the way I'm doing it, this can feed up to 6 people in the family. And just spread it on out. Oh, that looks good, right? That looks really, really good. Put a little bit more back here because I still see some meat. Alrighty. Make sure that's spread out nice and even like. Now that that's done, and we got everything together, one or two ways you can put it in the oven. You can put it in the oven as is so you can get a nice crust to it, or you could cover it. But if you cover it, what you're going to have to do, you have to maintain watching it, because you want it to crust over at a certain point. I mean, of course, you're going to watch your food, but at the same time, you need to allow it to breathe. I allow it to breathe. Now, it may bubble out a little bit because of the stuff that's inside. You always have a pan in the oven to make sure that it catches all the bubbly stuff that comes out. But once it's done, you get a golden brown crust all over the mashed potatoes. Stove, we got to get cleaned up. Mind you, good note, make sure while this is in the oven, you clean up all the mess that you made. I know a lot of guys don't like to do that, but it makes it easier. You can sit down and enjoy yourself and won't have to worry about anything else. All right? So I'm going to clean up everything, put this in the oven, and I'll be right back. Well, it's almost ready. We're going to be taking it out in a minute. Hold on. And there you have it. It is done. It is done. It is done. Nice golden brown crust on the top of it. And it's ready to eat. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your friends, family, and other people. Let everybody know that hit the bell when they subscribe to let you know when I upload videos. This is Old Man Gamer. About to get down on Sunday dinner. Peace.